So many people on the right have these hypothetical, arbitrary red lines that they say they'd never support a president if they crossed them. But the moment Trump crosses any of them, you ignore them and you continue to support them. This is why I say a lot of Trump supporters are a part of a cult. This is why I say a lot of the right is a void of fact, a void of reason, a void of logic, or a void of a genuine sense of understanding of politics where you want to make our world better.
Well, so much for that drill, baby, drill shit you guys just love to chant over and over again. Because now that Trump has raised the tariffs on China like 245% now, he's raised it again, China has stopped 90% of oil imports to them from us. So we're not going to be exporting 90% of our oil to China. They're going to Canada instead. You guys are the dumbest motherfuckers I've ever met. Drill, baby, drill!
Oh no! Another Trump cultist just got screwed over by his orange god king. I just came across a tweet posted by a Trump cultist, and he is just whining and freaking out and panicked because he and his wife just found out that Donald Trump screwed them over. Let me read what he wrote. All caps. Attention! Please help! President Trump and Ted Cruz. My wife is a nurse and was recently hired by the VA. Our home is packed up. We have a new home. We spent thousands to move our family from Fort Worth to Waco. Following Trump's hiring freeze executive order, the VA rescinded her job offer. Oh, no. My wife is in tears and inconsolable, and my family is devastated. It has been my wife's dream to work with needy disabled veterans. I'm a disabled vet. Now our home is lost, with no clear path of what to do. Her job was to start in 2 weeks. We are all huge Trump supporters, and I know this was an unintended consequence. I'm sure veterans medical care professionals were not the target of this executive order. Please help get this message to the White House so that President Trump can fix this error. Veterans need not be affected because of out-of-control government spending elsewhere. Please help retweet this so Donald Trump is made aware. We need your help. Aw, that's so sad.
Here we go. We are climbing up to the peak of the greatest constitutional crisis since secession. So far, courts hold, but it don't seem like he give a about what the courts say. So I don't know the mechanism to stop him other than a Senate majority impeachment, and that's not going to happen. So get your pirate hats on. We on uncharted territory. Scary shit, but we here. We are here.
You know, mi gente, one of the key survival premises of whiteness has always been that no minority person should ever be allowed to shine beyond white supremacists' imposed limitations, because according to the beliefs of whiteness, no minority person could possibly be smarter and more capable than any member of whiteness on their own. White supremacy has always known that if the majority of the population ever stopped believing this lie, it might run the risk of losing its self-giving powers to continue to force everyone outside of the exclusivity of whiteness to bow down in submission and compliance to all of its bullshit demands. That's where the term assimilate or we send you away comes from today. Forced assimilation is white supremacy's way of controlling how far anyone outside of whiteness could go without making whiteness look insignificant or inferior. The fate of whiteness depends on the maintenance of this premise. In fact, this is precisely why the white supremacy of this nation has made Trump its king and savior, even at the expense of our own constitutional laws and afforded freedoms that it's supposed to provide. Why? Because when Obama became president, his undeniable superior intellect and powerful presence was putting white supremacist mediocrity at risk of being exposed as the fraud that it has always been, and thereby also becoming powerless. So as a result, they needed a savior exactly like Trump. A mediocre reality TV showman who has pretty effectively pretended his entire lifetime to be superior to everyone else, even though he's nothing more than a fraud. You see, mi gente, when Obama took such position of power and visibility, white supremacy felt obligated then to prove to the entire world that even one of his most mediocre members could be better than Obama in order to stay alive. White supremacy also needed to keep convincing all of his mediocre, deplorable bigots just so that they could keep fighting on his behalf, that they were still far superior to everyone else in spite of the threat that Obama was presenting to them. But there was a catch though. In order to keep these mediocre bigots fighting, white supremacy will also need a leader that will inspire them to do so. A leader they could relate with and make them feel to be one of them. And what a better choice to lead a large amount of bigots and mediocre huelebichos than someone whose entire lifetime has been spent at being loud and proud of his own bigotry and mediocrity. White supremacy needed someone who will make its members proud of their bigotry and mediocrity. In Trump, white supremacy found its fucking champion. Stay woke, mi gente.
Me. I am so tired of MAGA people constantly deflecting with, what about Obama? What about Biden? Who gives a about them in this conversation? You guys literally worship an orange spray tan demigod who has the emotional intelligence of a second grader. A man who speaks like a cartoon villain with lines like, we're always doing the best things and I know more about everything more than anyone else, while showing he doesn't know shit about anything. This guy constantly belittles anyone who doesn't agree with him, talks down to his own supporters, and demonizes immigrants and foreigners like some kind of 1940s propaganda reel. And don't even get me started on this whole, I can stop the Ukraine-Russia war in 24 hours bullshit. He made it sound like a cakewalk, and then the second he gets some fake-ass ceasefire deal from Putin, boom! An hour later, Russia attacks again. Legendary negotiator, my ass.
Welcome to Snark Tank. Let's talk about Donald Trump's L's for the week. Your only global ally buckled like a belt when a no-name Maryland senator went down to El Salvador and demanded to speak to the man you sent there with no due process. You sat in the White House talking about how you weren't powerful enough to get El Salvador to do anything, but you know who is? Democrats. A federal judge has blocked your executive order targeting a law firm you don't like, calling it a shocking abuse of power. And another federal judge has started criminal contempt proceedings against your administration for defying his order about turning planes around when you sent all those folks to El Salvador in the first place. You appealed that decision to the Fourth Circuit, and that panel told you to pound sand in a decision written by a Reagan appointee and Federalist Society member. Speaking of conservatives who are fed up with you, David Brooks, the conservative New York Times columnist, has come out talking about how we need a national uprising because you are insufferable. This is what we call a canary in the coal mine. Google it. A couple more judges have overturned your freeze on funds to climate efforts, and Chuck Schumer seems to have located a few knobs in his spine and is now blocking your picks for U.S. prosecutors in his home state. And Chuck Grassley, who chairs the judiciary, has said, that's fine, we're going to let him do that. You got absolutely bodied by Delaware's congresswoman who forced you to reverse cuts you had made to her state's manufacturing. This would be an embarrassing loss for you, no matter who the Democrat was, but the fact that McBride is the first transgender congresswoman elected makes me filled with glee. Your continued inability to do literally anything right is having down-ballot effects throughout the states. 14 Republicans in what are now quite vulnerable seats have come out publicly in a letter saying that they will not support cuts to Medicaid in your upcoming budget. And the Libertarians in Texas are trying to impeach you. The Democratic governor of Arizona just won't sign any more bills that the Republican state legislature sends to her until they restore funding for people with disabilities in her state. And in Virginia, the GOP chair is begging you and Elon Musk to come campaign for their candidate for governor. And the chair of the DNC in Virginia said, oh God, yes, please do that. Please do that. Please do that. The boycott on Target has them so down on the mat that they're begging to meet with Al Sharpton. And students at the Pentagon schools are suing over your book banning policies. You had to cave on defunding a cybersecurity organization. We all know you're obsessed with 1985, but this is 2025. Things are a little different, babe. Your Maoist attacks on our universities are not going well. They're all starting to band together. All these schools that produce the wealthiest, most powerful attorneys in the country. What could go wrong for you? This is the only reason people elect Republicans. This one. And you're screwing it up. Oh, and it turns out your tariffs have disrupted your buddy's production in the US. Who could have foreseen it? Maybe you're just mad at him for secretly trying to meet with China behind your back, which you had to stop from happening. It's okay, babe. I'm sure you'll find somebody in your house who likes you. Oops.
Do y'all think it's a coincidence that the very same people who said no to the Laken Riley Act that simply states that those who are indeed illegal immigrants as well as criminals shall be sent back to where they once came, or at least detained to be sent back to where they once came? Do y'all think it's a coincidence that the very same people who said no to that are the same ones who are now fighting tooth and nail in order to get a member of one of the most dangerous gangs in the world back to our country after he was deported? Is that just me who sees a consistency in this narrative? That the same people who pretty much could care less about protecting their own citizens are the same ones looking to import criminals into those same citizens' country. Is that coincidence? I think not. As a matter of fact, I think that this is essentially what they do.
I'm actually becoming terrified to live in California, not because of the wacky politics, not because the government schools can decide to take my kid away from me or transition my kid without my approval, because that stuff is still happening in California, but I'm terrified because Gavin Newsom is actively trying to secede California from the United States. Gavin, you say that we are the 5th largest economy in the world, that you up. People cannot afford to live here with more than one job. The crime, let's not even get started on the crime, especially down by the border. Should we talk about the empty fire hydrants in Los Angeles County where you were just wiggling with joy to build a new city on? He's trying to entice Canadians to partner or to fund the secession of California from the United States. This is nothing new. California has been wanting to secede from the United States for years. You know when California was good? When California was a red state. Let's get back to that, Gavin.
If you are still supporting President Donald Trump, hit the like button. If you're still MAGA, Make America Great Again, Make America Healthy Again, hit the like button. See, these platforms are trying to silence us from supporting our president. No, I do not regret my vote. Actually, I'm more than happy to vote for it again and again and again. I stand with the United States. I stand with President Donald Trump. Of course, there's going to be some sacrifices we, the people, have to make. But it's in God we trust here in America. So although people are trying to silence our content, platforms are biased, people are upset because our president is putting America first, that's not going to silence us true, patriotic Trump supporters. So I'm going to keep continuing to deliver my political content. I'm going to keep continuing to keep you guys updated on the moves and the chess moves Trump is making, because he's doing a great job. And eventually we will all reap the benefits